Hello, friends. Welcome to day 16. Um, and in last time's video, day 16 of Gyan Group and the reading of The Courage to be Disliked. Last time we were reading um, where we were reading the second chapter, and the heading of the subchapter was Admitting Fault is Not Defeat. And here it was a very important lesson that came through was that we all use anger as a tool to communicate, and that we just need to change the tool with which we communicate instead of communicating with anger. And that's when we do that, we step down from conflict. We're not avoiding conflict. We are not denying anything, but we are changing the way we communicate. And I think that was a powerful lesson, according to me. And I'm just going to read some paragraph before, starting with our actual reading today, a paragraph before from the earlier reading, then the last paragraph. In the first place, the rightness of one's assertion has nothing to do with winning or losing. If you think you're right, regardless of what other people's opinions might be, the matter should be closed then and there. However, many people will rush into a power struggle and try to make others submit to them. And that is why they think of admitting a mistake as admitting defeat. Youth, yes, there definitely is that aspect. Philosopher. Because of one's mindset of not wanting to lose, one is unable to admit one's mistake. The result being that one ends up choosing the wrong path. Admitting mistakes, conveying words of apology, and stepping down from power struggles, none of these things is defeat. The pursuit of superiority is not something that is carried out through competition with other people. Youth. So when you're hung up on winning and losing, you lose the ability to make the right choices. The philosopher. Yes, it clouds your judgment, and all you can see is eminent victory or defeat. Then you turn down the wrong path. It's only when we take away the lens of competition, winning, and losing that we begin to correct and change ourselves. That's amazing. So we now come to a new chapter. It's called Overcoming the Tasks That Face You in Life. Continuing from the earlier dialogue, the youth says, okay, but there's still a problem. It's the statement all problems are interpersonal relationship problems. I can see that the feeling of inferiority is an interpersonal relationship worry and that it has certain effects on us. And I accept as the logic as logical and I accept as logical the idea that life is not a competition. I cannot see other people as comrades, and somewhere inside me, I think of them as enemies. This is clearly the case. But the thing I find puzzling is why does Adler place so much importance on interpersonal relationships? Why does he go so far as to say all of them? Philosopher. So here he's coming back to where it began about interpersonal relationships and how um, this book is dedicated to Adler's psychology and how Adler thinks that it is the source of many of the problems. Philosopher. The issue of interpersonal relationships is so important that no matter how broadly it is addressed, it never seems to suffice. Last time I told you what you are lacking is the courage to be happy. You remember that, right? Youth, I couldn't forget if I tried. What you're lacking is the courage to be happy. So why do you see other people as enemies and why can't you think of them as your comrades? It is because you have lost your courage and you are running away from your life tasks. Youth, what do you mean by life tasks? Philosopher, right. This is a crucial point. In Adlerian psychology, clear objectives are laid out for human behavior and psychology. What sort of objectives? Philosopher. First, there are two objectives for behavior. to be self reliant, and to live in harmony with society. Then the objectives for the psychology that supports these behaviors are the consciousness that I have the ability and the consciousness that people are my comrades. Youth, just a moment, I'm writing this down. There are the following two objectives for behavior: to be self reliant and to live in harmony with society. And there are the following two objectives for the psychology that supports these behaviors: one, the consciousness that I have the ability, and the consciousness that people are my comrades. Okay, I see that it is crucial subject to be self-reliant as an individual while living in harmony with people and society. It seems to tie in with everything we've been discussing, philosopher. And these objectives can be achieved by facing what Adler calls life tasks. Youth. Then what are these life tasks? Philosopher. Let's think of the word life as tracing back to childhood. During childhood, we are protected by our parents and can live without needing to work. But eventually, the time comes when one has to be self reliant. One cannot be dependent on one's parents forever. And one has to be self reliant mentally, of course. Self reliant mentally, of course, and self reliant in a social sense as well. And one has to engage in some form of work, which is not limited to the narrow definition of working at a company. Furthermore, in the process of growing up, one begins to have all kinds of friend relationships. Of course, one may form a love relationship with someone that may even lead to marriage. If it does, one will start a marital relationship. And if one has children, then a parent child relationship will begin. Adler made three categories of the interpersonal relationships that arise out of these processes. He referred to them as tasks of work, tasks of friendship, and tasks of love, and altogether as life tasks. Youth. Are these tasks the obligation one has a member has as a member of society? In other words, things like labor and payment of taxes? Philosopher. No, please think of this solely in terms of interpersonal relationships. That is the distance and depth in one's interpersonal relationships. Adler sometimes used the expression three social ties to emphasize the point. Youth, the distance and depth in one interpersonal relationships, can you explain that? Philosopher, the interpersonal relationships that a single individual has no choice but to confront when attempting to live as a social being. These are the life tasks. They are indeed tasks in the sense that one has no choice but to confront them. The youth, because the youth is now a little bit more confused. We are now entering into a new topic, life tasks, and these are mainly at three levels: friendship, love, and work. Would you be more specific? Asked the youth. Philosopher. First, let's look at the tasks of work. Regardless of the kind of work, there is no work that can be completed all by oneself. For instance, I'm usually here in my study writing manuscripts for a book. Writing is completely autonomous work that I cannot have someone else do for me. But then there is the presence of the editor and many others, without whose assistance the work would not be realized. From the people who handle book design and printing to the distribution and bookstore staff, work that can be completed without the cooperation of other people is, in principle, unfeasible. So everywhere work is involved, other people are involved, right? In work. Youth, yeah, broadly speaking, I suppose so, the philosopher. However, considered from the viewpoint of distance and depth, interpersonal relationships of work may be said to have the lowest hurdles. Interpersonal relationships of work have the easy to understand common objective of obtaining good results. So people can cooperate if even if they don't always get along, and to some extent, they have no choice but to cooperate. And as long as relationship is formed solely on the basis of work, it will go back to being a relationship with an outsider when working hours are over or one changes jobs. Yes, youth, yes, so true. Philosopher. And the ones who get tripped up in the interpersonal relationships at this stage are the people referred to as as neets, neets, a young person not in education, employment, or training, and the ones who get tripped up in the interpersonal relationships at this stage are the people referred to as needs or shut-ins, a person confined indoors. Cute. Huh? Wait a minute. Are you saying that they don't try to work simply because they want to avoid the interpersonal relationships that are associated with work? Not that they don't want to work or they are refusing to do manual labor. Philosopher. Putting aside the question of whether or not they are conscious of it themselves, interpersonal relationships are at the core. For example, a man sends out resumes to find work and gets interviews, only to be rejected by one company after another. It hurts his pride. He starts to wonder what the purpose in working is if he has to go through such things. Or he makes a big mistake at work. The company is going to lose a huge sum of money because of him. Feeling utterly hopeless, as if he's plunged into darkness. He can't bear the thought of coming into work the following day. None of these are examples of the work itself becoming disagreeable. What is disagreeable is being criticized or rebuked by others through the work, getting labeled as having no ability or being incompetent or unsuited to the work, and hurting the dignity of one's irreplaceable self. In other words, everything is an interpersonal relationship issue. Nice. So this is about the life tasks, and one right now we are talking about work and what can happen. The next chapter is about red string and rigid chains. So I think it'll be very interesting to observe that. So yeah, um, please do write, like, share, and comment, and watch the meditation coming after. It's great to be able to do this. I at least intend to post 3 videos in a week. Um, I'm very also excited to announce our upcoming hike with Unplugged Trails, where we've been working towards making these hikes a deeper experience. We go for holidays and we go for clicking pictures. That's like, and because we want to break from our normal routine. But we have had experiences which have transformed our lives in these mountains, talking to people and being in these vast valleys, being by yourself, meditating, or even just writing, or just simple observation, walking in the forest, in among these huge trees. And I think it nature in general is a great healer. And since it heals you so much, it has so much of comfort. When there is so much of comfort, and then also there's so much of learning that comes along, because you're in a very we're in a very great space to open ourselves up to learning. And these so in our hikes we have a specific schedule during the day, which also is not like a fixed rigid schedule, but we intend to keep it more and more conscious. What we learn during these 7 days um, something that you can follow even when you're not on a holiday, but the experience becomes deeper, and the holiday uh, becomes retreat. And if you listen to this podcast, The Purpose by Jay Shetty, he really stresses the importance of going on retreats. And he said most of my life lessons have come from there. And he was a former monk, and he beautifully describes why retreats are important, why self reflection is important. So if you have the time, you can go on his podcast and listen, or join us for the retreat and experience it yourself. We are having an early bird prize till 27th of December. Yeah, see you in the next video. Lots of love and meditation coming along in some time. Close your eyes, bring yourself in a graceful posture. Bring your attention to your breath. Take your own time. And if you feel like you can rub your palms, bring them over your eyes and face. And welcome back.